Okay. We're live. The preview is showing correctly now, at least.
Okay, that's a good sign.
That's a good sign. Okay, I see us. There's at least good frame rate. Hi, everybody. We're back. Let's see how this is for everybody. I kind of rebooted the whole system, and that way redid everything to maybe this will give us a better connection.
How is the video display from my ZBrush screen?
Hold on. Let me switch to you.
Pre-drag says we are live. Confirmed.
Okay, so we're now... Okay, so now they can see you. Yay! We got a yay! We got a yay!
Technology.
Oh, everyone's good, yes? So then there we go. Hopefully. Here, let's try the double screens. All good. We got... All right, yeah, it looks like something happened with their system hiccup because now everything is updating the way it should be updating as well.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing that's missing, hold on, from the double screen is your webcam. It's not there. Mother of pearls. Okay. So, Saul, why don't you tell them what we're doing? I'm going to see if I can add your webcam to that scene while you're telling them that.
All right. Yes. So just a heads up for anyone who else just joined in. We were having some technical issues. It looks like we're good now. Stream's looking good according to Richard Uberbar. Saying it's looking good. Okay, great. So today we're picking up from our last Clubhouse stream. We took a poll last time. We're trying to do a mashup stream. So we're combining two themes picked by you guys. The community, I'm going to pull this up here. Last week we did a poll. And 37% of people wanted us to do Space Marine, 25% wanted us to do Ninja Turtles. So that's what we're going to get into today. Last time we did Mad Max with Care Bears, which was a really fun one, and ended up getting some good results out of that. So we're going to start again from scratch. This one may be a two-part stream, so we won't have a poll here for you guys today, since we can't, technically speaking, get through all of this, and we're going to be going for about a couple hours. But we're going to see what we can get done. So... feel free to throw out questions, anything you guys want us to talk about. We're here for educational purposes, first and foremost. So we're going to do our thing, but you guys feel free to ask us anything. And we'll get started here in a moment. Space Marines and mutant scum. Exactly.
I'm not that open. You can't ask me anything.
Paul says no questions.
I'm not here for your benefit. Okay,
all questions must be submitted in writing.
Okay, so we're looking at Saul's screen, and now let me see if I go back to our dual screen if your webcam shows up.
Okay.
Yeah,
oh, there we go.
Look at me.
Great.
Look at me go.
Let's get started. Let's go before anything changes.
I'm not even gonna work in ZBrush anymore. I'm just gonna do this.
So when I found out, I don't know about you, Poe, when I found out this was going to be the crossover, I was like, okay, started thinking StarCraft. I was thinking of just Googling Space Marine. I actually found a YouTube video that's about 2 hours worth of content on the top 10 best Space Marines ever. And they talk about it for 2 hours. It's amazing. Really? Yeah, it's from Generation Films on YouTube, but it's really cool. But anyways, I ended up, I don't know, I think you've instilled enough of that 70s, 80s sort of nostalgia. So I immediately thought of Aliens. So I think I'm going to do Ninja Turtle, Alien style Space Marine. That's my plan. Okay. That sounds good. I'm going to go with like I'm going to make mine be in the toy market world. So I'm going to sculpt my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle more for like a toy based purpose. I think. And I'm still up in the air. I was going to go with Aliens is a big one for me, but since you're going that route, I'm going to switch it up. I was thinking about me even going like kind of more like 60s Space Marine, go in the opposite direction. Instead of being sci-fi futuristic, go early days Space Marine kind of a thing. Okay.
And I was going to go with like a 60s style, so like just a rudimentary. And I just watched E.T. for the first time with my daughter last night, and it kind of made me think of it as well.
Yeah.
You should go back and rewatch that movie because it's funny when they go see E.T. They're like all in like a spacesuit when they go see him for the first time. I was like, huh. And now that you're adult watching it, you're like, huh.
Like what's going on there?
All right.
What are they doing there?
Astronauts are coming in to see E.T. So I'm going to start in Dynamesh mode, but I'm going to use Project Primitives, I think, to kick the head out real quick.
Oh, look at you.
I want to experiment with that a little bit. So I'm just going to squash my sphere a bit here. and just get a general rule of kind of engagement here of what I want for some kind of head. Yeah, whatever.
Thanks, Mike. I do have my beard and hair is getting pretty crazy. it's you know, I feel like acceptable in these days.
So you have lazy face like me is what I call it. When I don't shave for
lazy face.
I call it lazy face. I wear roll up and I'm like, I don't want to shave today.
Yetkin was asking, will there be a ZBrush Summit this year? We cannot confirm.
I cannot confirm or deny.
Can neither confirm nor deny. At this point, there's no definitive answer to that question. We're kind of waiting to see how all of this is going to play out. But as of right now, Summit is still going to happen. We've made no announcement that it won't. So just consider that. And I think there was another question too. Ruby was saying it was the video from One Mind Syndicate. It was the video I was talking about was from, it's called Best Space Marines in Science Fiction from Generation Films. That was the one that I found.
That's a really short title, by the way. Thanks.
It's just called
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious to the left and to the right. That was like, hey guys, by the way, this is where you want to look up in Google.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like you need to give them the link.
Yeah, oh yeah, duh. I have the link up. I can do that. I've been so afraid of our content getting pulled. So we're not going to, this time we're not going to use any reference images, but for my thing, you could look up Hicks from Aliens, and you should find some pretty great reference images of that style of Space Marine. And then for me, this morning, I actually went in and I just concepted out just a quick silhouette drawing. So Paul looked like, so you're going to do the project primitives. I'm going to go old school route and do primitive objects and just block out a base mesh here.
Yeah, I like project primitive though, because it's something also where, right now I'm throwing a sphere. Oh yeah, he's got a headache, right? But I can change the size however I want, move it. So right now I'm just projecting. So see like that, bam, I got already a nice turtle silhouette. And right, I'm staying simplistic because I'm going the toy world. Okay. And Tom, I saw your question about CNC stepping. There is a plugin that we already have for CNC machining. Are you aware of that? If not, Solomon, my assistant, will go get it for you. Hold on. Let me get it. If you're not aware of it, let me show you the link. Let me switch to Solomon so Solomon can talk while I get this. I'm going to switch to you and you talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, this has sort of become my primary method of base mesh creation, which is just creating just multiple primitive objects starting from a sphere. I got a little of a head start this morning as I woke up early. I couldn't sleep, so I started working on this little project, but not very far along. So I just really have a simple kind of torso locked out here.
Oh, so you're using a silhouette image.
Yeah, so I sketched this out this morning just to kind of give myself proportions so I can get the right stuff going. Otherwise, if I don't have this, sometimes I'll do this without ZBrush, and it's perfectly fine if you kind of don't have an idea what's in your head. But I like to have this. It just kind of helps speed me along, push things into a place where, if I'm stuck with all 3D objects, I might spend a couple hours just blocking out all these shapes because they're so important.
Okay, so Tom, to your question about the CNC, I just put a link to where there's more plugins. So there's the set of plugins that ship with ZBrush, but there's another, I don't even know now, 15. Let's see, how many more is there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19 more plugins that you can actually download that are coming from us.
19 plugins.
So you can go there and there's a plugin actually called ZCNC. So it's a plugin specifically for CNC machining. So if you're doing that CNC machine stuff, there you go. I would highly recommend downloading that plugin and give it a spin, and then you can use that. David Lee, using perspective for me, I would say I don't, especially for me, especially since I'm going to go the kind of the toy world route, you turn perspective off, actually, if you're going to be 3D printing something, because you don't want the camera distortion while you're working, because then there's a camera distortion that's not going to match our human eye in a 3D print. So for all my stuff that I do 3D printing, I don't keep the camera on at all, ever. I keep the perspective camera off. If you're going to keep the perspective camera on, you need to change your focal strength. You probably need to put it higher so there's not so much fisheye-ness happening. Because you put too much fisheye, and then you're looking at it with a distortion, and when you go to print that, it's not going to be the same. You're not seeing links on Twitch? Oh yeah, it didn't go through to Twitch. Twitch is like, I don't want you to have that.
Oh, that's weird.
That means probably restream is not. And let me try it again.
Yeah, one thing I would say about perspective on when you're sculpting is, in my experience, having it on, you end up getting a false sense of what's accurate in terms of proportions. Although it is giving you sort of realistic perspective, a lot of times I'll sculpt with it off at first, and then I'll go turn it on and make slight adjustments as I go. But I end up getting a more exaggerated and natural perspective when I sculpt in ortho without it on. And yeah, if you're not using ortho, if you're not using perspective reference, don't use. If it's like an orthographic, like I'm using an orthographic silhouette here, that's not technically speaking a perspective image. So just thinking about that in terms of the kinds of images that you may be looking at always helped me a lot.
Yeah, using the S key to resize your brush size is actually default, which ZBrush. So maybe you're referring, there's another plugins out there. So I've switched to my screen, Solomon, to answer this question. So the S key, this you're talking about, this ships with, this is a default for ZBrush. S key is the default for draw size. I prefer that. I don't use this pop-up quick menu. I don't like having a lot of UI in front of me. That's a personal preference. So anyways, since I have the screen, I've stolen the conch from Solomon. Project primitives really quick. What I like about this is right now I'm projecting a spherical shape, and you can see how quickly I can kind of really get that turtle head, right? And I just start from a squash sphere, okay? And then I can tell, I can change the way that actually is going to blend with the character, right? So this pink cone up here is blending it. So in essence, Solomon, I'm going to take the conch for a little bit here. 1 second. I want to explain this.
Your thing.
Okay. So I'm going to pull this away. So in essence, everyone look at this in two boxes. Okay. So the top box is the item I'm using to project into the mesh that's now below on the bottom box. Okay. And so right now I'm telling in essence not to do any projection. I'm just telling, just give me a new piece of geometry. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a Lisa needs braces moment. Thank you. Or look up here for those that are in here that have obviously know my craziness. So look at it in this sense, okay? Because I know looking at all these cones might be a little overwhelming for you at first, but look at it in all the cones in here on this box, which is our mesh that I'm projecting into, are the global settings, let's say, okay? It's the easiest way to remember this. This is stuff that's going to happen globally to the entire mesh, okay? These cones are up here are more the cones that you're doing to change things with the item that you're using to project into the surface, okay? Because this is called project primitive, not project primitive, like Joseph likes to say sometimes. As a joke, Russ, if you're watching, I doubt you are. So if I pull this purple cone back down, okay, you're going to see there's more cones pulling up here now because now I've turned on the projection part again, right? So you can see the sphere disappears on the top. However, when I start pulling down this, you're going to see the sphere pop back in, okay? And now I'm projecting the sphere back into the surface. So you can actually pull the sphere out more, and then it becomes a subtractive cutting in. And you're knowing that by, if you look straight at this, you see the gizmo right here? That yellow square, you see how that's sitting higher than the whole silhouette of the bottom portion of the head that I'm making right now, right? And if I bring that square inside, you can see it switches back to a projecting out. So this is how easy it is you to switch it from a projecting out or a projecting in. All it is if I pull this out more, you see now this gizmo, i.e. that item's projecting, sitting out over the silhouette of this shape. So that's why it's projecting in. If I start pulling this back in, now I'm projecting outwards instead of the inwards, okay? So what I'm doing is just sizing it up a little bit, okay? Giving me kind of what I want, a little bit of the sizing and the roll-off maybe that I want. And then this pink cone right here, this is global, right? So this is saying, how do I want this to, in essence, fuse with the mesh, right? So if I make this smaller, I'll go smaller. So right now I'm using a sphere, and you can see how harsh you can make the projection. So in essence, this is saying don't have any transition right now between the shape I started with and then this sphere shape that I'm projecting with, right? So that's what this pink, and it's global. Remember, that's why I'm up here. This is, I mean, sorry, not global. This is only dealing with the mesh that I'm projecting with, right? So this pink cone saying, no, I want it to kind of blend in with the other surface, right? So right now I'm doing a sphere. Okay, so again, look at these cones, these three here and these three here are my shape projection. And then this orange cone is going to allow me to change it from a sphere to a cube, right? And if I go the other direction, it's a diamond shape, right? So I want in the middle because I want it to be a sphere, right? And then this is saying what axis to project into the Z, the X, or the Y. Obviously, a sphere, it doesn't matter. Where it matters is there are multiple primitives you guys can project with. So besides a cube, there's going to be like a cylinder, there's going to be a torus. Okay, so that's what this yellow cone is right here. This is what primitive type do you want to project in. So right now, this primitive type is called something specifically. I'm going completely blank on it now. It's a weird mathematical name. I don't remember what it's called. Forget it. I'm not even trying to remember, people. So in essence, this primitive is allowing us to do this transition from a sphere to a cube or all the way down to a diamond, all right? So if I pull on this, you're going to get two cones now. So this is even allowing more complete, like I can make a saucer. I can go like this, right? So you can have more shapes. So there's, in essence, this is controlling one way of how the shape is, square to like a cylinder, and then is it sharp? And then this one's controlling the other direction, okay? And if I pull this out and do primitive 3, now this is a cylinder. So if I put this back to both these orange cones being at 0.5, you'll see that it's a cylinder, right? So that's where then this cone becomes important to you, because do you want to project along the Z? Do you want to project along the Y, right? So there's along the Y, and then there's along the X. Like that becomes important to you now. And then the fourth one is a torus, right? So again, that projection is going to be important. So here's projecting along the Y, and you can kind of see now here, I'll sharpen it. You can see there's a torus. And then these two cones are controlling, do you want that torus to be completely 360 and playing with the size of the torus, like as far as the internal? And then this is playing, do you want to be more of a sharp torus, or do you want to be more something like that? Or do you want to be something more rounded? So it's a quick way to go, but I'm choosing to use this because it's a great way for me to transition and get the head really fast this way. Okay, because now I just got a sphere that's giving me that overall shape that I want. And then I can use this white cone and say, you know what, I like that. And then now I can just pull forward, and I'm using the sphere again, the exact same sphere that I was using. And I can say I want that one to be a different size. Let's go smaller like this. And then I'm going to widen that up and do that. And I'm just using this to get me my general silhouette, in essence, of what I really want to have happening here into my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Right? So there you go. That's my base mesh, just using something like Project Primitive to kind of... The nice thing is, instead of trying to pull with brushes, I'm using that. What's going on, Jeff? So I'm going to go back to dual screen, so Solomon can have some talkie time now.
Oh, no, you keep talking. I just want to keep sculpting.
Oh, you keep sculpting away. Well, now that I have this, I can, re-dynamesh this if I want, right? And then start going at the sculpting, right? So me personally, I like to keep my dynamesh relatively lower, just so that it's easier for smoothing and making big changes and general change. I tend to keep my dynamesh low. And now I have the start of where I want to go with my guy. And now I just start accenting kind of some detailing pieces that I want. So there's more than one way to do this, as like Solomon's way, right? And then but I kind of just wanted to show that feature because I find it very useful. It's very useful for hard surface stuff. I'll tell you that much.
Definitely. The I like that project primitive, especially when you're dealing with like individual elements. I think it's a great way. But what I'm doing here is essentially a sort of it's basically the same concept, but you're just doing it with separate objects. But project primitive, you have the ability to use those controllers, especially those cones, which is so great. I've been able to do all kinds of stuff, not just organic stuff like what you're doing there, but I made that Dr. Gorbort gun not too long ago. I'm gonna pull that thing up.
Dr. Gorbord. Yeah, that's a cool series.
That is too cool. So I don't know where I discovered that. I bought a couple of their books and was just obsessed with the art style.
Yeah, so Dafu, why he's getting that, what we're doing here is we're doing a Clubhouse stream where you're seeing myself and Solomon both make a Space Marine Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mashup. So we're both making our own turtles and making our own. He's going the route of like a Teenage Mutant Turtle in the Aliens world. I'm going for a toy-like more look, and that's going to be for like the 60s style more. I'm going to do that kind of tech look to it. So there you go.
Yeah, so this thing right here, I've probably showed this to, if any of you guys have checked out my other streams, I'll show this every once in a while. This was the first thing I ever made with Project Primitive. A lot of those metal components was just using Project Primitive, and just those primary primitive shapes. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And what Paul just showed you is a great way to do organics, but in fact, you can do a lot of this kind of stuff as well. So these like duplicated rings, all these cylindrical kind of shapes, all sort of fused together at the end, like these little sort of blocky elements there in the rings, all Project Primitive, which is too much fun, honestly. Once you get started with it, if you've never used it, it's definitely addicting.
Yeah, I've switched to your screen so that you have full screen now too. So
okay,
that they can definitely see what you're showing.
So last week we did. I guess it was a couple weeks ago.
It was a couple of weeks ago.
The last one, just so for everyone, so it's clear, I'll pull up the. Let's do version 6 here. So we're picking one topic. We're both doing the same theme. So like Paul was just describing, this time today we did a poll last week, and we started off with our own ideas. We chose Mad Max and Care Bears to combine last week, and then we took a poll. Everybody voted Space Marine and Ninja Turtles as the combo this week. So last week, this was like the piece that I ended up with, doing just a mashup between those two topics. So now, starting this week, we're both kind of taking our own sort of ideas here and just trying to come up with whatever we think. So for me, I don't want to pull up images because that messed with our YouTube videos last week, but I'm going to do, if you know James Cameron's Aliens, I'm doing sort of a mashup between Ninja Turtles and Aliens version of Space Marine. So like Google Hicks Aliens, and I think you'll find some good images for it.
You gotta be careful with that algorithm.
No. Such a classic movie. I just feel like gotta be mention it, but maybe
I love it. I love that movie.
Yeah, so I actually watched it this morning. I started going through and sketching out the silhouette and sculpting.
You watched both, or
just Aliens? I didn't have time. I only watched one, and I chose Aliens.
That's a good one. It's a good one.
So good.
It still holds so strong and so true still to this day. One of my faves. Definitely one of my favorites.
Totally. Still holds up.
Yeah.
I gotta throw out a couple shouts here. Comics Legend, what is going on? Combo, thank you for the salute. I'm doing great, man. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in. And Comics Legend, thanks for the comments on the weapon. I appreciate it. It was it's definitely a steampunk. The story or the piece is actually from a series called Dr. Grodbort, made by Weta Workshops. And just look up Dr. Grodbort. You'll find some really awesome steampunk weapons that they make.
What they do, baby. I'll go back to the dual screen. Just so we're all looking at what we're doing here. Someone brought up to I saw about primitives and putting numbers in and things like that. You can do that with the primitives. You can put numbers in. That is possible. So I'm not sure if you're aware of that. There's two ways to go about this. I really like using the gizmo duplicating primitive way of working. So like this, I'm doing quickly the bandana real fast. So I just duplicated the bandana by holding the control key and then grabbing on the arrow, and then it duplicates it. And now I can just reposition this somewhere, wherever I want in space. Wherever the gizmo is, I can actually click on the little gear icon. So here I'll put the magnifier on. So there you go, dual screen. You guys can see that better. I'll click on the little gear icon. And then right here, there's all these primitives along the top. Right? So these primitives actually have the ability to change with the cone, the actual spans. Right? So in this case, you see that sphere that I have. Let me zoom up close here. Right? And I can now use this cone, in essence, change the number of spans that I want. And you can see a number will be down in this area. Down here, there'll be a number down here in this area. So then I can I can say, okay, 19, and I can do this 19 by 19. Right, so stuff like this. I don't need it like that crazy, but you can do that is a way to go about working, which again, I tend to use this a lot now just because it's my preferred method now. And especially when I'm just doing something like this where I just need to get a quick little spherical shape for the back of his bandana that I'm going to sculpt on here in a little bit. And then now I can, do whatever I want. I could probably just duplicate another one of this, right? And then position this somewhere where I want this to be. And then you could throw in a little brush in here, throw a little snaky hook in this, go a little bit bigger, and then everything's masked off right now. So that's actually a benefit too. This is kind of why I like this workflow, for me at least. It's a fast way to just kick out something that you need, right? I'm just looking to get just simple shapes right now because I'm at the beginning stages here. So it's not going to be amazing at this stage. I wish it was. It may never be amazing.
Yeah, we did that master stream with Ben Morrow a few days ago in the evening, and Ben was going through and using, some of you guys might have tuned into that episode, and even just watching a pro like Ben go through, and he was doing a lot of the same stuff that we're doing now, which I think a lot of the people tuning into that were happy to see. This part right here really is probably the most important when you're dealing with an organic, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's just period, right? I think the first 20% of the sculpt, in my opinion, is probably the most important part of the sculpt because it lays everything down. It's the foundation, right?
Yeah.
It's making sure your proportions are right, your silhouettes are right, things like that, right? It's, I guess, to put it in layman, it's just like a foundation of a house. You can't have a second story and a third story and a cool television and your Xbox and your PlayStations and all whatever we have in our houses without a foundation first, right? So
Interesting way to put it. I like that.
Sculpting's the same way. I can't have all the cool stuff, the skin pores and the wrinkling, unless I make sure everything else is there first. Bone structure, and then making sure I'm landing things where I need it to land.
Totally.
But that's just my opinion.
No, but I agree. I think you're right. Have my symmetry on. Silly me. It's not symmetrical. There we go.
Yeah, there's definitely a way you can re-sign any hotkey, whatever you want. Everything in the UI is customizable. So you can do whatever you want for hotkeys. So someone's asking about the intensity slider, where it's U, as in U, the letter U, right? So you can see as I scroll over, it's the letter U. I'll magnify that. All you have, this is super easy. Hold down Control and Alt, and then just tap on the slider. And then now ZBrush is telling you, you can see right above it, it's saying a phrase and saying press any key combination to assign a hotkey. And now you just press whatever you want. Like I can press the number 9, And then see now mine's saying, oh, that's taken. And I said, I don't care. I want it to be 9. And then now the 9 key is my Z intensity. So you can, here, I'll switch to full screen real quick so you can also see it full screen wise. So if you see the 9 key, you can see when I hover over it, see it says Z intensity number 9. That's it. That's all you got to do. And then if you always want that from here on out on your ZBrush, you got to make sure you store that, because ZBrush is always going to relaunch to the defaults. So if you want to save that, you're going to go into preferences, and in hotkeys, you're going to need to store it. And if you ever have another if you ever have another computer where you have ZBrush on, this is where then you can also save it and then load it. So the hotkeys are their own file, and then your config file is, in essence, your UI is a different file. So in the config is your custom UI, and then in the hotkeys is your custom hotkeys. So it's that easy. It's just Control, Alt, and Tap, and then whatever key combination you want to use will become your hotkey. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. Gives you something to work on. So I'm going to go back to dual Z brushing, so you guys can see where Saul's also at with his.
Just working on getting some calves in here, you know?
You got to calf it up. Calf, half model. Calf. Yes. So you can see I am working again in the workflow of using the gizmo to create some of my base mesh stuff. It's a fast workflow for me, and then I'm controlling where it lives, where it's sitting, right? So I tend to do this. This is actually one that I will use often for myself. I'm a fan.
Big fan.
I'm a fan. And then I can easily split it off and make it its own subtool. So now I got the head, and then this body is its own subtool.
Mac, yeah, thanks for the feedback on the screen. Sounds like you're liking this new stream format. This is the second time we've done it, or rather, the second time we've done us developers. We have been using this for some of these ZBrush master streams on YouTube. But yeah, we're loving it. We are really loving this. It's so much easier for us too.
Oh yeah, setting everything up.
Oh, so much easier.
As long as it doesn't give us problems like it did in the beginning.
Yeah, sure. But
it was good until that happened.
Oops, no, I don't want to save. I mean, I do, but let's do a little quick save. Keep forgetting how many toes and fingers they have. 2 toes.
3. Well, 2 toes, 3 fingers.
Those 3 fingers.
Which is great. Less toes and fingers to do.
Let's do a little Boolean action for the toes.
Is that your most scary part to sculpt for you?
Feet. Yeah. I'm actually more terrified of feet than I am of hands. I've gotten better at hands. I mean, I'm not great. I don't consider myself great at really anything, but I feel like I'm much better at hands now than I am at feet. I just haven't spent much time on feet, because I always end up, if I'm doing a character, I throw shoes on it. That's always the case. So I don't want to spend all that time if I don't have to.
I don't want to spend all that time.
I don't want to do that. I'm okay with this though. 2 toes is fine. It's just doing human toes, and the sloping of a foot is, if you really want to get into that, is super complex. The anatomy of the foot is, I find, very, very challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Oh yeah. You know what I don't want to say it, but the infinite move ability, to be able to put on brushes with the infinite ability, I don't want to say it because it's something Joseph and Druss and I were arguing during the development of it with. But this is Joseph's little baby. He really wanted this brush. It is becoming one of my good friends.
So great.
So right now, people, I'm using a move brush that's infinite, which means no matter when I'm looking at my mesh, it's going to move everything that it can see wherever my brush is. So it is super beneficial. Like right now, I'm readjusting my neck a little bit. And I know that what I'm adjusting here is also happening in the back of the neck as well. So I find this pretty awesome to work with and to go with, in all honesty. So I'm going to take the conch again here. So just so everyone has an understanding of what I'm talking about when I'm doing here, let me take it over here. Metal likes it. Okay, but metal, do you know it can be applied to any brush? Do you know that? Because you know what? If you don't, I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so everyone, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Turtle power. Okay, so you have normal move, right? Which is just move, right? Which is screen space dependent, right? If you hold the Alt key, then you're moving along a normal. And if you click and then hold the Shift key, you're actually moving along the surface. I don't know if you knew that as well. I know Solomon and I brought it up in the last stream we did in the Clubhouse. So again, you click on the surface and then hold the Shift key. And this movement is actually different. It's actually moving along the curvature of the body compared to just grabbing a move brush and doing that smile. See, it looks more like there's a ruler in his mouth, right? Compared to if I click and then hold the Shift key. And if I don't want this happening, this is why you have subdivision levels. I walk down in subdivision levels. I probably go a bigger draw size, click, Shift key, and now I smile. And then see, it's more of a natural smile. So, there's that with the move brush, okay? One of my new other favorite brushes for me, I find myself slowly using the move topological more now than even the move brush. So metal, yeah, it works more like a slide. Yeah, sure, if you want to go that approach, because there is a slide brush. I don't tend to use that word because there is actually a brush that's called slide. But that's nice. It's giving you a nice move. Okay, and then obviously the move topological is pretty much the move brush, but it's using geometrical shapes. And I think it's probably I use this more because my workflow is becoming more and more as much destructive as possible, non-destructive as possible. And what I mean by that is I don't tend to fuse everything together right out the gate, right? So you can see Solomon was even doing it with his body. He was putting a shoulder for just a shape for a shoulder and then a forearm shape and so forth, right? So working in kind of pieces that eventually will get fused. So for example, I got two heads here. So I can go with a massive draw size and you can see only one of the heads will be edited, right? And I can go to this other head and then only this. And it's because both heads are their own, in essence, shells. So this brush looks at geometrical shell, right? So I find that incredibly useful. Okay, so to the brush that I wanted to talk about, the Move Infinite, which we added in 2020. If I remember, yeah, 2020 is when we added it.
It was 2020.
So, I don't know anymore because now we're at, by the way, everyone, we're at 2020.1.4. In case you don't know, all your ZBrushes are telling you now. So, okay, so the Move Infinite now is very different in the sense that when I click here, it's going all the way through, right? Compared to if I just do a move brush, right? I just do this, it's stopping based upon the brush radius, right? So now the brush radius there's no roll off per se in the sense that what you're used to. There still is, but not what you're used to. And it's this right now, it's looking at camera plane dependent. So wherever you are, I just turn my model and I know when I do this, right? Instead of that happening right there, I undo that and I switch to the Move Infinite and now do that same thing. You can see it's consistent across. So as much as I don't want to minute, because Druss was like begging for this one, it is pretty freaking awesome. I use it a lot. Now,
yeah.
Metal was talking about he or she uses it, right? So obviously when you're sculpting like this and you're sculpting like that, you can actually turn this on for the brush as well, okay? So in the brush palette, right? Not in curve. Clicking on the wrong stuff. Okay, in the depth, there's an infinite depth button right here. So when you turn it on, right, this is infinite depth, right? So you can see this is shooting across the whole surface now. My whole sculpt brush stroke went across the whole surface, which was based upon I'm looking camera view at it, right? So if I click here, right, see it's finding the surface on the other side that's along that same line, right? So if I started a brush stroke like this, I know that's going to keep pulling it all the way out. Oh, one thing maybe you're not aware of, or maybe you are, is it's hard to see, but there is an XYZ options right here. So if you don't want to do screen dependency, you can actually do axis dependent. So I can say the Y key, right here. So now you can see the Y is highlighted. So that means now I've turned this off and it's only in the Y. So no matter where I'm sitting, see, it's only going along the Y axis of the model. So you can even do that with the brush, because sometimes this is pretty beneficial to, I can turn and now I'm making some kind of vent thing happening there, and I know they're all going to be vertically sitting along the Y. So just a fun fact for you guys. It's another fun little brush that you might enjoy working with and looking at. I'm going to go back now to dual screen. And so you can see in Solomon's piece, right? He is working kind of like how I like to work too, where it's kind of in pieces. And so the Move Topological brush, if that was all one subtool, would be really beneficial as well.
Yeah, I have, that's one that I started using forever ago, and I took a break from it. I just, for whatever reason, I stopped. I think it was when I started using more Dynamesh and things like that, but it is a very powerful brush.
Yeah, I dig it.
I think I got all the parts I want here. I'm about ready to remesh, although he's not very proportionate. I just want to. This is the part where this primitive workflow works great for me up until about here, where I feel like he's slouching. I want him to be a little bit bigger. I need to make adjustments. And for me, I don't know about you, Paul, but I love me some subdivisions and clean topo for that stuff.
Man, I think that's a must, honestly. As much as I love Dynamesh, the one drawback to it is staying in Dynamesh the whole time just doesn't make. I get it, why people would do it for sure. But we developed for more about what him and I are doing right now, blocking something out. That's really what it was developed for, right?
Absolutely.
So you take away some advantages not having subdivision levels, in my opinion. For those that have already been watching me in my streams with my Gremlin, I've been going through the whole process of my sculpt, and having subdivision levels is a lifesaver, i.e. I started posing some things yesterday. Like Dynamesh is not going to pose well. It's too dense.
It's too dense. And exactly. The real power in posing here is being able to have soft masks. So when you have a dense piece of geometry, you draw a mask over a piece like this, control click, you're only getting so much blur range in between that model. So for me, those low and high subdivisions serve better. Like I love to bounce. I don't treat it as I need to stay in Dynamesh, then I need to go ZBrush, then I need to apply my details. Like right now, what I'm probably going to do is take a break from Dynamesh to ZBrush and subdivide and pose, and then I still need to go through and give him eyes and a mouth and all that, but I can always go back to Dynamesh after the fact. So I think I'm just going to probably weld these guys together and go into remeshing here for a little bit.
Yeah, and because I'm going kind of the toy route, I'm sculpting this with the thought of this is eventually would want to get broken up to be a toy. So I'm looking at what, some people will call, or I call it, I'm probably not even correct in the terminology, but I'm going with the ab crunch for a toy. I'm sure you've seen it now for toys, so that they can go forward. So, I grew up in the 80s where the toy going forward from the torso, like what I'm doing right now, wasn't really possible. Yeah. Right. Or if you're Johnny Queston.
One of my favorites.
Oh, God, I love Johnny Quest. That would be such a good cartoon to bring back, actually.
Oh, I agree.
So I'm talking about right here in the chest, right? As humans, we have vertebrae, so we can start bending over. So what they do in the toy world is they cut the toy right here. And that's why I call it like an ab crunch, because you're ab crunching. And then there's a torus in there in a cylinder, so it's allowing this movement to happen. So I'm kind of just quickly seeing where that line is for me and just mapping it out real fast, because I'm going to use another mesh to put his front part. I'm not going to sculpt in the front part. I'm going to use another mesh for me. I just kind of want to get the general sizing right, And this is a big thing for me. And I think this is, again, going back to Solomon's thing with Dynamesh. This is where I like to call it now Dyna sketching. I'm sketching out what I'm trying to do.
It is Dyna sketching. Yeah, absolutely. That's how I feel. It's like, this is my sketch phase. Although today I don't usually do a silhouette drawing to give myself a head start. I just wanted to be able to move quicker today. But yeah, it's like, if you don't have that concept, Dynamesh is your sketch tool. Or Sculptors Pro, whichever one you sort of prefer to work with. I see those as same, but a little different.
Same, yet different. Same, yet different, would you say?
Yes, exactly.
Inside jokes.
I can't not reference movies when I talk to you.
No. I'm sorry. YouTube, I don't know what to say. I got to have movie conversations in my life.
Exactly.
I have an obsession. It's a problem. I am going to meetings. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm obsessed with movie knowledge.
Seriously, though, that's a generational thing.
You think so?
I think so. I think our generation, we're pretty
close.
You
think the younger generation isn't like crazy about the...
No, I don't. No? I think there's too much. I think it's too much content now. I think there was there's a sweet spot in there.
There's just so much information now and so many ways to get stuff.
Yeah. People don't pay attention to the details as much anymore, in my opinion. When it comes to entertainment, it's like, outside of like the details of like Easter eggs and that kind of stuff, but like those one-liners, man, love them.
One-liners. It's tough though. Sometimes you do a one-liner and someone's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and then it doesn't land. I know.
Then it's just now, okay, you're crazy.
What are you saying to me? Are you a real person that's talking to me right now?
I'm going to go ahead and just say, yes, I am crazy. Crazy funny.
Oh, so anyway, Uberbar just dropped in
a movie reference for Solomon. Go ahead, Solomon.
Oh, no, I was just saying, Uberbar was saying, since they're going to be Space Marines, the real question is, will we see pizza box shoulder armor? That's a great question and also a great idea.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
I like it.
That's awesome. Good call.
You gotta have some of those elements in there. Like, I'm thinking for mine, since I'm going that alien style Space Marine, that's like very Vietnam era kind of Marine kind of armor, which is like, got a style to it.
I hear what you're laying down.
Yeah, these proportions. Now that I'm doing this, I'm just thinking about all the guff that and we have some friends that worked on conceptual work for Ninja Turtles, the reboot. And I'm just realizing, like, it actually makes sense. The designs that the redesigns you need for that full body to be able to run around and move with that turtle shell, they got to have these bigger backs. Like, the shape of that needs to be a little bit bulkier, I think.
Yeah, this is my first time just messing around with a turtle.
Same.
Turtle power. Never not going to say it. Turtle power.
I think today, I remember when we transitioned to clay build-up brush, I used to be a huge fan of the clay brush. I think I'm just going to go back to that today.
Whoa!
Something about that clay brush, this clay brush that just gives you this really nice, sort of uneven, sort of volume building that I think is kind of cool for sort of a stylized kind of effect, especially for these kind of turtle body shapes. I'm looking at some reference, and these guys are just crazy bulky.
Yeah. Just thinking about what approach I want to take for the shell real quick. I'm going to take the insert mesh. I'm going to just go all over the place here so you guys see multiple ways.
Yeah, I'm actually...
He did. Yeah, that's a good trivia question. I didn't know that BT's called that. Did you know that Chuck Lorre wrote the theme song for the Turtles?
No. That guy writes music?
Yeah. Yeah. That's how he kind of started getting into the biz. Was one of those ways he got into the biz.
Wow. That's amazing. That's impressive.
The cage I was using on the Gizmo was a deformer. I'm assuming you're referring to this. So when we're double screening, is it okay for you, or do you need me to switch to full screen myself? first of all, just to make sure you can visually see what I'm doing here. Okay, so what I'm doing, okay, no problems, good. So right here in this gear, so I'll use the magnifier actually so you can really see it, right? So I'm just in Gizmo, right? And I hit the gear. This is pulling up all of our deformers. So there are multiple deformers that you have here, along with the primitives. And again, I really do like to use these primitives pieces a lot, as you guys have already seen. And I find myself using deformers quite a bit. So I'm just using the deformer. So it's something that you're used to, probably you've seen maybe in other applications. But what's great about this is it's got its own also symmetry world. So in essence, what I mean by that, it does not use the symmetry of the world. It's got its own symmetry. And that symmetry is based upon the gizmo, right? So however this gizmo, so for example, if I was to, let's say, make this gizmo sit at a 45-degree angle like it is now on my guy, and then now I go click on that gear and hit deformer, you can see the deformer is actually taking the 45-degree angle. So I can't tell you how many times I use this where there's shapes I'll have like in weird, like here, let me even just put something on here that's in a weird location. Here, let's use like say something like a cylinder, because then you can visually really see some stuff too. So I'm going to do this. Okay, so I just drew this out. Let's do this. I'm going to just freely reposition this somewhere strange in the world. Okay, let me just split it from the body. Okay, so you can see this, right, is just sitting somewhere else. So symmetrically, we're done. I cannot, in essence, sculpt symmetrically. But there's been plenty of times where like, hey, that cylinder, I wanted it to be taller or shorter, or maybe I wanted to do some slicing on it. Maybe I want to flatten it or either clip it or whatever, because there's all these deformers that can do this kind of stuff, or extend it something. I want to turn maybe that into some other squared off rounded corner thing. There's so many things we can do. So the gizmo is going to drive this now. Okay, so you can see my gizmo is already sitting along the axis of the cylinder. Okay, so if I accidentally even was to redo all this and even just reset the gizmo, so you can see now my gizmo is sitting perfectly on the world axis points. Okay, so this is where I mean by the deformers have their own symmetry. Now I can say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go to gear and hit deformer, because you can see what we get, right? It's just putting that cylinder in a box. And then when I do this, see, I'm doing that, right? It's more like a stretchy kind of distortion thing happening, okay? That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want the symmetry to go along the axis about actually this cylinder. So I'm going to turn on polyframe mode so you can see this, and I'm going to zoom in here, make this bigger for you, okay? I'm going to hold the Alt key and tap on that middle point, and you can see what that does with the deformer. It sets the deformer now. First of all, it's along the normal. So I found that normal is perfectly there. And then it moves the gizmo. And because that point is the middle of the gizmo number one, I mean, the middle of the shape, that's also then the middle axis line of the whole surface. So now if I click on this gear and hit deformer, you can see the deformer now takes on the actual angle of this cylinder that's just sitting wonky in the world. Okay. And then this deformer has obviously 3 axis points. You have X, Y, and Z. Okay, and then so obviously the red is X, the blue is your Z, and the green is your Y. Okay, why, you ask? I don't know. It's what they went with.
Are you trying to make a pun there, or?
I'm just trying to brighten up my afternoon, okay, with bad jokes. So now you guys have, that's all the green, red, and blue are your axis points. So you guys can be symmetry along the X or the Y or the Z, but then there's also 2 types of symmetry. There's mirroring symmetry, and then there's parallel symmetry. So right now I have my X set to mirroring. So what it means is if I just click on a point, you can see the other side is actually moving for me automatically. Right? So it's not I'm not in symmetry mode inside the brush. It's the gizmo's in symmetry mode, okay? I.e. the deformer's in symmetry mode, right? So I have this now giving me the stability along that cylinder, okay, which is cool. right? But I can also change this. Right now, this is sitting all the way out. If I go halfway out, this is now a mirror. So now if I grab that same point, you can see here, let me just mask off only one point here. And then you'll see, this is why this one's called parallel. So the left side's being, if the left side's being pulled out, the right side's being pushed in, right? So it's staying parallel and vice versa. Where mirroring is, no, they both go away from each other. Okay, so you have those two things. Okay, all the orange cone is saying how many points of interest do you want along each axis, right? So I'm adding more points of interest. Those little white dots are my points of interest to do stuff to the mesh. That's all this orange one does. Okay, and then the white is controlling smoothness. Okay, so here, if I did this, okay, so now as I pull this out, right, you can see the shape of this. Oops, kind of, it's kind of rounded a little bit, right? But if I grab a white cone this direction, you can see now it's becoming more sharp. And you see that the mesh itself is actually trying to conform to the exactness of the deformer. So these white cones are smoothnesses along the axes. So I'm pulling along, right, X, but it's also, I want to affect the smoothness now along the Z. So I'm telling it no smoothness, and that's why it starts matching more to this, right? If I do this one along the X, it's not doing anything because I haven't pulled anything opposite of that. Okay, does that make sense? So that's what these white cones are. That's it. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. So, but another key feature for me, which I use non-stop, Saul, your shell looks like a huge sombrero from the front, Metal Dragon saying.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely is. He's just stringing it up over his back. I'll get to the shell later.
So everybody, this is, so I don't know how much you use this, but I knew this when we made this. I was like, that's pretty cool. I knew that this was going to be a big thing for my workflow, what I'm about to show you guys. When I went from using the beta version that we're building, and then I went back into when I'm doing something like this, and I have to obviously work in the version that you guys know as an example, because as a developer, we have a beta version of ZBrush that you guys don't have. So
right.
Masking with the Alt key is become a massive thing for me. And we added it for the deformers. So you can see now there's only 3 white points available. So now only the bottom portion moves, right? Where before you can see all the points are white. So we mask out these points in essence, saying, okay, the ones that are masked, you no longer use. Okay, so what I'm doing, instead of doing something where I mask like this, and I'm just masking off each set of points that I don't want to use anymore at a time, to get to that, where now there's only the 3, instead of doing that, it is so much faster just to do that. So you can see with one click, I've got everything masked but those 3 points. So what I'm doing is I'm holding down Control, I'm dragging it out, and then I'm switching, and my hand's not on the keyboard anymore, hence why I'm doing awesome clicking here. And now I'm holding the Alt key. And because nothing is masked, what ZBrush is pretty much saying there is, okay, anything in the box stays unmasked, everything outside the box gets masked. So if I show this in another way, I'm sure you all have done this at some point in your sculpting careers inside of ZBrush, where you're like, okay, I want to put some eye sockets in here, and you guys maybe do something like this, and then you inverse the mask, and then now you start sculpting the eye sockets. Like, I'm sure you guys have all done something like that at some point, right? But then you might want to do stuff like this where you're doing a selection and then you're inversing it, right? So what you're going to actually do is this. This is pretty much what I'm doing. I'm holding now the Alt key, and see everything else got masked but the box. That's the difference. Right, so that's in essence what I'm doing with the deformers when I'm working with them. I'm controlling what points get used by just doing this kind of thing, right? I'm just saying only that one point, boom. And see the gizmo moves to that one point, and I can now move along now the gizmo axis points, which if you remember, it's aligned to the cylinder, right? So that's a long drawn out explanation, but there you have it. Enjoy.
There you have it.
Enjoy. I'm going to take a swig of water because I'm talking too much.
Oh, this is a good opportunity for the bend arc deformer. I love it.
Oh, Solomon's favorite. Do you want full screen for this?
I'm just gonna go do 2 little bends. I go swoop. That's all I need to do, man.
It's your favorite.
I just love it so much. Trying to do stuff like that before those things was always you just move a brush, and like I saw somebody commenting earlier saying that they didn't know that those deformers existed, and they're over here using these deformers in the deformation palette, which are great. You know, great when that object's at the world center, but when it's not, this is where these guys are. I never looked back. I end up using deformations a lot for more like inflates, balloons, sphereize, like the sort of the mesh effects. But all the rotations and stuff now, I'm spending more time using these.
I want to see if this noise is bothering you guys. I need some air circulation in my office. I'm going to lose, forget about sweating to the oldies. It's sweating to ZBrush in my office right now where I'm losing pounds. I need the AC right now. Is that too loud?
It's a little loud, but I feel like once, we'll get used to it, Paul. It's okay. It's actually not that loud. It was loud when it was starting. Now it's fine, I think. You guys tell him if you think it's too loud.
Yeah, tell me and I'll just ignore you anyways. Not really. I'm full of jokes today.
DDD Studio says, I have a question about the newest update. Did anything change about the move scale rotate on the canvas compared to the 2019 versions? It's much more laggy on your system. It's interesting if you use move scale rotate, blah, blah, blah. Nothing has changed. The move scale rotate on the canvas. Are you talking about these controls on the navigation here? So zoom, move, rotate. These are the ones you're talking about here? If you're experiencing a difference, there has been no change to those controls. So if anything, you could submit a ticket to us in support. A lot of times these kinds of issues end up being something changed in the hardware, or we might have to go through and maybe change some performance preference settings, maybe, depending on your system. There's so many different system configurations, so just so you know, when you come to us in support, we can deal with those things correctly.
Yeah, this by the way, there's only one thing different from 0.1.4. It's all to do with licensing and activation. That's it.
Yeah.
So you can no longer now activate old versions of ZBrush. You can now only reactivate 2020.1.4. So if you're in 2020 or if you're in 2020.1.1 and you deactivate, you will not be able to reactivate that anymore. That's what's changed for 2020.1.4. That's it. There's no other change. It's the exact same thing. Everything's the same.
Yep. Make sure for something to keep notice, you shouldn't, you never want to change that zoom factor here. This should be whatever default is created. That could be a slight contributing factor. Also, if you're rotating and moving around, if it's slow, just make sure you don't have a lot of objects with dynamic preview on. That could also potentially, if you have a lot of subtools, that's something that has been known to happen as well. And then, of course, depending on your screen resolution, these are things we talk about in support, but very large documents may also introduce some performance changes.
Yeah, like Solomon said, I think the best thing for you, whoever that is right now, I would make a ticket on support. Because like what Solomon just said, there's a lot of factors that we need to look at the machine, its essence with you to do some things. That would be my recommendation, so we can take a look at it with you.
I'll drop a link there for you. It'll come to myself or Paul or some of the other developers if we get into any nitty-gritty technical issues.
Oh man, this was a great way for me to use the old hidden feature too. I think that's a fun one. Right? The old clipping brushes. You guys gotta love this. I'm sure some of you know this one, right? So when you're clipping, right, it's just clipping, right? It's just flattening. But I just, like right now, I just used it in this sense where I was making the shell and I want a little ridge. There you go. And now I got a little ridge right there, right? So what I'm using is my draw size to actually create the ridge. And so this was a huge example of how useful that could be used, this feature, which was a big one for me. You don't understand what I'm saying right now, or just in general that I'm wild and crazy? So again, I'm turning on B radius right here. So I'm showing this by holding down the control and space bar, okay, which is actually in the brush palette because it's brush features. So right here, clip brush modifiers. It's not like a hidden feature. It's just when we were developing this, we wanted the ability to be able to call it quickly, right? So again, I'm going to take the thunder from Solomon. Just like someone said, nothing, shut up, Paul. Okay, so you can see it's just clipping, right? And then depending on my brush size is what I'm going to get here, right? With this, with how I want this to clip down. Okay, so where this is really awesome is also using it with the slice curve, because then you're going to get 2 slices, something like that. And then I can slice, say, something like that. And then like this, I use this a lot for like scribe lines and hard surface or something like that, because then I can do things like get this, right, where it's all this nice slice. They're all the same width everywhere. And then now I can come over here to my geometry edge loop, throw a little bit of the crisp on right there, right? And then I got edge loop here, and then I say displacement. Let's go a little bit inward and hit displace. And then now you can see it gives me that. Right? So for me, I love using this all the time for stuff like that. So the B radius is helping me get those 2 slices to always be the same distance, no matter how I slice it on the surface. Okay? Oh, you speak Portuguese. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a good Vasquez is Italian. Yeah, Anna, who just was on before us. She speaks in Portuguese. Yep, panel loops is another good one. So, but since I was using it on my shell, I wanted to give you guys that.
Don't get me started on panel loops.
Oh boy.
Use it every stream.
Every stream?
Every stream.
You say you use panel loops every single stream, huh?
I would say every single stream. This is the first one.
Have you used it for this yet?
Nope, but as soon as I get to that armor, you better believe it.
You better know I am. I do love panel loops. I do love me some panel looping.
Trying to just get his face done here so I can start working on the armor.
I'm still just trying to get the whole body blocked out.
Yeah, well, you are facilitating a lot of great information. I'm just your booth babe back here, you know. I'm just trying to make stuff.
You can say, Paul, shush up for a moment.
Oh no, it's all good information. Freshly baked panels. All right, now,
turtle power.
I'm gonna have to go back to DynaMesh.
My mind's going crazy on the things that I want to do.
No, same. Just want to get this thing done. That's why I'm trying to cruise.
Gotta just quiet and do. I'm gonna remesh this now. Remesh me up, and I'm gonna keep those poly groups. I think poly groups are so important.
Oh, absolutely. That is.
I can't tell how much I depend on poly groups. Yeah, there we go. Take this a little bit.
Back to DynaMesh. Got to get the rest of the face in here. I need to get a mouth and some eyelids. These are always challenging too. Eyes are.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But for me now, what's become my go-to is I do not do eyes now unless I have a sphere.
Oh, exactly. I'm doing that right now.
And then also that helps when you're going to go sculpt on it. You can't sculpt where the eye is actually sitting.
Definitely, you need it. It helps you because the eyelids themselves are wrapping around that sphere, right? So everything is shaped around that all that skin outside of the bone sitting around it. So having those spheres you're right, is so essential. I started doing this technique when I get into eyelids. I used to just sculpt it all. I'd go in here and I'd draw a little mask that's the shape of an eyelid, and push it in, just keep moving stuff around. But now, doing a sort of kit bash approach, actually going in, let's go back to Dynamesh and start adding some additional subtools in here. This to stay high res enough.
High res. I'm just going to repeat words.
Up to 400.
Word salad.
Sarowina, if I'm saying that correctly, she's asking, or he's asking, how long have we been doing this? For me, I started sculpting in ZBrush in 2004.
Wait, that or how long we've been working on this sculpt?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, can you clarify? Do you mean ZBrush?
I like that you just went for how long you've been.
Well, let me talk about my whole life story. This piece we've been going for, it's 1:30.
It's over an hour, but in all fairness, it's at least over an hour because we had the problem in the beginning. But in all fairness, too, we're also teaching at the same time. So
yeah. Metal Dragon's asking, is there something that restricts polys to one side of the world, like for modeling legs? I don't know if I know what you mean. By restricting, there's really no restrictions for the polygons in any way outside of...
Let me see what the question is. Go ahead, keep talking. Let me read it.
I mean, I was going to say outside of... by restrictions, you can go max poly per subtool. You can go 100 million for a single object. But in terms of one side of the world, there should be no restrictions in terms of polygon resolution, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. The way you're wording it, I would say, yeah, can you reword your question a little different? Because the way you're wording it, it's like you only want, like, what? X side of the world to get topology?
Not break the center plane. Yeah, so, I mean, really all you're dealing with is, like, you'll see here, I even just... have a section here that's like jammed, sort of like leg muscle and stuff like that. That's going to cross over. So if you mirror and weld that stuff over, there's no real restriction. But like for this might be something that I might want to separate across that space, if that's what you mean.
Unless you're talking about, well, I know Vasquez is bringing up backface masking, but that's more of a sculpting. You don't want to touch the back of the surface.
Yeah, you're talking about the center plane, which is that center line dividing the model across the axis.
So are you asking only to subdivide one side and not the other side? We're going real deep with this.
No. Rui, your question about project primitive, loading custom primitives. No, you cannot load customs. You can only take the existing primitives that are available and use those to combine or blend between. Sorry, Metal Dragon. We're having a hard time with that one. Hey, Dougie. Welcome.
Dougie!
Follow him on.
Whenever Dougie joins, I got to say that. Dougie! You got to really drag out his E.
I'm going to do this trick. This is what I've been doing lately. I do a little mask on the spheres for the eyes. Extract for an eyelid.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Quick way to get eyelids.
Get eyelids on the top and bottom. That way you don't have to... Then you can just move them around.
I like what you're doing. I like what you're throwing down. I like the knowledge you're throwing.
Where is the old gizmo? Can you send images in the chat?
No. No, it's just straight up chat. What do you have an image of that you want to share?
Well, I was going to say for Metal Dragon, but Metal Dragon just posted, just to make it so polys don't cross the center line for details that may be close to the center. Yes, no, there is no way to, say, block those or change those in any way. If you're sculpting in symmetry, blackface masking won't do that because that's looking at the opposite end of those surface normals. So yeah, like, okay, so my example of the thick leg muscles is I was on to something there, I think. Yeah, so if you don't want those to merge, no, there's really nothing you could do outside of if you have symmetry on, you hold shift there and you smooth them away before you remesh them. you can work on them separately. Like sometimes what I'll do is have like a figure, I'll, if we can just like clone this guy. So I can work in that space and not deal with, because a lot of times when you get close in here and say you're doing like a clay buildup brush and you're like working like this and you might get some stuff that's crossing over. I find that to be problematic. So what I'll do is maybe turn symmetry off for a time. So like if I go look at just this part, say we just grab that leg, I will delete that opposite side or get rid of it. And then you can turn on, with that floor grid, you can turn on the, oh, let's get rid of that image now. Increase that grid size. And by increasing, you'll get, oh, let's turn snap off too, or snap on. You'll get that symmetry modifier, or that modifier for that line. You can also just go into the draw modifiers and play around with the axis size here. So you can make that bigger or smaller. So you can leave your grid size at 3, increase that axis, and it'll put that line so you can see exactly where that part is. So then without sculpting with symmetry off, you can kind of go in and like work on that sector, but then you're using that sort of axis line, the y-axis line, as your guide to show. And then if you mirror and weld, whoops, without local, of course, as long as that space is clear, you're going to have even space in there. Hopefully that's what you're talking about, just in terms of that. But that would be, there's no like setting or thing that you can change or affect to stop that stuff from merging over. If it crosses that line, it's gonna, bleed over.
That's gonna help me with my silhouette. Let's see. Good afternoon. Okay. We're very exciting right now.
We're just getting into a groove, Rui has a question. Is there a way to use curves to guide arrays? I'm getting all kinds of crazy ideas from watching Paul do the shell. In terms of curves, no. There's no way to affect or like bring in something to use as a guide. You would have to simply just use the X, Y, and Z transformations with that array.
Are you coming with that question because I just hand sculpted the little parts of the outside turtle part and you wanted to be something more specific? Because if that's where you're going, you can do something for sure to do that instead of sculpturally. Like if you wanted to be, I want all those to be kind of like a perfect roundness, perfect shape kind of a thing. Okay, so that's where your mind was going. All right. Then let me show you what I might do with what you're trying to ask for. Okay, dokie. So hold on. Let me split this. Arms right. Yeah, I've gotten real far with my guy. Nowhere. I do want now. I just want to finish, but I have so many other things that I'm working. I really want to finish my gremlin. Okay. All right. So to your question, let me get back to where I was before I did all this sculptural stuff on this. I was just doing this for me for silhouette purposes, and I was going to clean up later on in my process. Okay. Let's just go with this. Okay. So you can see I have a cleaned up version, right, of the shell. I remeshed it. Okay. I can use the deformations here by my polygroups, even keep cleaning up everything. So you can see something like this. All right. So let's say you want now to, along here, right, instead of worrying about arraying something, which technically I could use array mesh here if I did want to, honestly. But for that, where your mind was going, I think where your mind was going, I would do something else. Okay. What I would personally probably do is I would take a cylinder, let's say something like this, Let's limit its spans. Let's knock the spans down. No, okay, not that low, Paul. You're getting crazy. Yeah, that's pretty good. You know what? I'm gonna need more. I'm gonna need more. Okay, so forget it. We'll just keep it at this. Okay, so I'm gonna make this. I'm actually gonna stretch this out a little bit, like that, and I'm gonna go use that handy dandy deformer again. And I want this along all axis points. Here's now me using all 4 symmetries. Ooh. Right? To do movements. And now you can see there's only, in essence, 7 points to even work with, right? So if I select those, right, I can see put a bulge in the middle, right? Because these 3 points, they're being moved across also the X, the Y, and the Z symmetrical axis points, in essence, okay? So I'm gonna put a little bulginess in there. Let me inverse this. And then I'm gonna go the opposite here and kind of pinch it a little bit more, maybe like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna wanna do this so I can see what it would look like soft, i.e. divided, right? And that's good enough for me. Okay. And so now what I want to do is I want to use this as an insert mesh. Okay. So I'm just going to say brush, create insert mesh, which you can't see that right now. So hold on. B for brush, create insert mesh right here. So this is where I'm at. Here, I'll switch to full screen because I'm going to be clicking on a lot of UI elements. So Saul, I'm taking over the stream. Brush, create insert down here, right? Down at the bottom here. You can also get that here in the brush palette. So in the create menu right here, there is a create insert mesh. You can even use now from mesh too. There's multiple ways to do this. So I'm going to say, no, I want a new one. And so this is now that, right? This is what I have. Okay, and what I want to do is, okay, I don't want to draw out that, okay? I want to draw out something else. What I want to do is I want to draw first along a curve. So in the stroke palette, I'm going to turn on the curve mode. So this is telling ZBrush, think about it this sense. The little piece I made is now the mesh brush, right? This is kind of why we call our meshes tools, because we allow you to use the actual sculpting that you're doing as literally a tool to do something with, okay? So I'm turning on curve mode. What that's going to allow me to do now is draw out a curve, and you can see this is just repeating now that along the curve, okay? The one other thing I'm probably going to do is, especially if I start really bending these, you know, it's limited by the topology. So you can see there's a little gap starting to open up there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some resolution to the mesh being put along the curve. So in the brush palette, because I'm dealing with the mesh, I want to change the way the mesh is interacting with the curve now. I don't want to change the curve. I want to change the way the mesh is interacting. So then, again, the mesh is our brush. So in modifiers, you'll see it right there. Okay, so we've created an insert mesh brush is what I've done. And now I'm going to come here and say curve resolution, and I'm going to up that. Here, I'll also start at 6. And when I start to move this, right, you'll see there's not as much of a gap anymore. You can see they're kind of now distorting a little bit and bending with the curve. Because I'm allowing that now, that resolution happen so that the geometry is allowed to bend more with the curve. So that's what this slider curve resolution is doing. Okay, and the slider below it is your angle of what bend are you allowed to have happen. Okay, that's really important, because are you doing something like chains? Are you doing shoelaces, right? Because if you take a chain, they're not going to have necessarily the same type of bend. They're limited by the size of the link. Like, so if you got a really big link, you're not going to be able to bend any more than that width of that link. Where, you know, a shoelace, you're going to tie it and tighten it, right? So you got to look at this. How much bend do you want it to have? Okay, so the higher you go, right, you're going to allow now, I can say more bending, right? So 90 degree on it, right? So you can see it kind of can start bending on itself, right? And if I go lower with this slider, okay, you're telling it you don't allow as much bend. So you can see it's almost like more like a snake. So you see, I can't make this turn the corner and start bending on itself because the bend's too high. I mean, too low, right? So for me, what I'm doing, the default 45 is probably good enough, okay? And so now I have this, right? There's going to be another factor here, which I've done on purpose. So let's go back now to my shell, turtle power, okay? And this shell here, I'm going to look at these two polygroups and only those two polygroups, okay? Because these are two. Here, I'll make these double, right? So how you select more than one polygroup at a time, clicking on any of the vertex points that share both polygroup. Because there's no way we can code or know what polygroup you want. Do you want the green one or the yellow one? It's impossible. You're clicking on a vertex point that has two polygroups assigned to it, okay? So what I'm going to do here is click on that to give me this, right? So Ray, no, the curve res, this slider in the brush, okay, let me try and put this in a way. It's not adding resolution to the curve itself. What it's doing, it's adding in the background, okay, our curve is doing this, but that slider is allowing the mesh to bend more to the curve, in essence. We're allowing more resolution bending of the mesh, not the curve, the mesh. That's why I'm in the brush side of things. Okay?
Dougie was asking about spacing. Maybe he's looking for the stroke curve mode stepping.
Yeah, I'm going to where I'm heading. Yep. So I'm showing two polygroups because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say stroke. And then in curve functions now, there's an option right here that says frame mesh. I'm going to tell only polygroups. And I'm going to click. And what happens is I got a curve right there. So you guys can see the curve is sitting right there now perfectly. And now because I have this brush selected that's on curve mode, I can just tap and I'll get the repeating pieces. Okay? And now the size of these are determined by your draw size. Right? So how big do you want to go? The other thing that factors into this, i.e., so this is important. Look up here. Look at me. Look at me. Lisa needs braces moment. Okay? Is the original mesh itself. The size of it is going to matter. Okay? So right now I've been stretching and making this. So this is sitting at a certain size in the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unify this, and you can see it's a little bit smaller, right? And what unifying does is puts everything back in the center of the world and makes it all sit perfectly within the preview window size, which is the perfect size. Okay? Yes, Greg, there is a way to save all this out. Absolutely. You can save this brush out. I'll show you that for sure. Okay, so now let me grab this one, even though it's the exact same mesh, okay? And this should help you guys. I'm going to hit create insert mesh brush again. And it's telling me, hey, you already have an insert mesh brush selected. Let's append it and add it. And now you can see I have two. They're identical. The difference between the two is the physical size of them. So why this is important is let's come back to the shell. Okay? The size of these items that you're going to get now is dependent upon your draw size. So if I go with a small draw size and I tap, I get more of them. Okay? If I go with a large draw size and tap, you see they get bigger. Right? Now, what is the difference between what I was just talking about is this. Okay, I've been clicking on the new one. All right? So you can see I can go pretty much a relatively like a size like that, and you can see what we get. So here, let me snapshot that. Okay, so I'm not going to change my draw size, and I'm going to change the mesh. So I'm going to go to the first one, and then click, right? And you could get a variation in sizing. So the size is going to matter for you. Now, the spacing is also going to play a role for you, obviously. Okay, so when you click on this, right now I've got a certain spacing happening through here, right? There's a certain gap. In essence, they're overlapping themselves. But what I can do is come in here to the stroke, go to the curve mode, and this stepping right here. So I can say, let's go with a stepping of 1.25. So make a quarter gap between them, and now you can see they've got a gap between them. And it's just like a quarter gap, and it's a quarter based upon the size of the mesh, okay, that I'm using as my insert. And I can say, okay, that gap's too much, right? I can say, how about let's go with 1.1, and then now I just tap, and you can see I got that gap. Now, this is something that people that know this feature and people that I've seen make brushes that I see kind of as something being used. I'm gonna go, I want these to be bigger. Okay, I'm gonna go more that size with them. Okay, one thing that I've seen done, when you guys are using this curve step, which is great, it allows you to add some stepping. I'm gonna go bigger because I'm gonna inflate between them. Okay, so there's now a gap, right? So we are not dropping them one boom, 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 boom in a row. We're like dropping them, then making like a little bit of gap, then dropping, making a little bit of gap, then dropping, right? So what I actually can do is right now I've got this happening with my mesh. I can tell my mesh, you know what I want you to do though now along the curve? I want you to stretch now. So this is something that I see a lot of people putting this button on, and this button or this option only, let me rephrase, Lisa needs braces, Lisa needs braces, Lisa needs braces, only works if you are changing your curve step. Otherwise, there's no point in putting that button on. It doesn't do anything unless the curve stepping is different. Okay, so as an example, here's what we have right now, right? And then now I have stretch on, and I tap, and you can see this is probably more the look you want to go for my turtles. It's probably something a little more like that, right? So it's still giving me a gap, but then what we're doing is we're telling ZBrush, stretch the mesh across that gap now. That's why it's called stretch. And then there's an overlapping. So I can make them overlap a little bit if I want to, right? So if I start upping the overlap, so here's with no overlap, bang, okay, let me undo and tap, and then there's with an overlap. So clearly the overlap's ridiculous. I don't want the overlap, so I would probably say, well, what's an overlap of 0.2, let's say. Click, and maybe that's what you want. Right, so there are three, there you go. There's three different shells for my turtle now, all from one brush. Okay, so I forget who, I think it was Ray Vasquez, you were asking about that. This is how I would do a repeating like mesh that I want to have on the shell. And now that you've asked it, I kind of like it. All right, I like the perfectionness a little bit. So I'm going to go with this, and I like the stretching version of it, but I don't want the overlap. I'm going to put this back to 0, larger brush size, tap. Oh, I don't want to go that big. Go a little bit smaller. Yeah, let's go that big. Okay, so, all right, back to dual screen so Solomon can have some moments back in this as well. Hey-oh! Solomon's at, look where he's at.
I'm making such great progress. Keep going, Paul. I love it.
Talking.
Those insert curve brushes, though, the best.
Oh, I live on them, man.
I do too. So far, I haven't really had. I've been going just the traditional organic route.
Mm-hmm.
All right, base mesh, almost there. He's crash test dummy. This is my crash test dummy phase, but eventually, now I gotta remesh here.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm not very far at all, so. Do 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 do. Polish this back, yeah. And my handy dandy deformer. It's crazy how much I use the just regular deformer. It is a go-to for me. No symmetry. Have a little bit of a indentation in the shell. Turtle half power. Turtle power. Okay, we got something. There's something happening over here. I don't know what it is, but there's at least some.
Things are happening.
Things are happening, people. Things are happening. Clearly not going to get to the point of having this guy anywhere near being done.
Yes, well, that's why it's a Clubhouse and it's on Saturdays. We can do this.
Join us
as many times as we want. Yet Ken was asking, although we are ZBrush guys, do you reach any other software outside of Keyshot and Photoshop? No, man, we live in this world. This is our space.
Yeah, I have found that I don't really, for me, for all my workflows, I don't really need another software for a lot of things for me. I do hard surface inside of ZBrush. I do organic inside of ZBrush. I prep for 3D printing. I do snapping, like snap joints, like say something like this. See my camera. So here's a print I did, right? So it's got a snap joint right here. Right, I did all that in ZBrush. So in essence, this is for like a wheel. So this is gonna snap into the body, and then it can't be pulled out, but then it'll still turn like a wheel. I did all that in ZBrush. I did all this inside of ZBrush. Right, so something like that. I've just gotten used to finding my ways into doing what I want inside the old handy dandy of ZBrush world. So. Oh yeah, they're happy little trees. I think I gotta put eyes in them too, because it's just freaking me out right now that he doesn't have any eyes. Extract. How often do you use extract for yourself? Like that's an old school feature.
That's another one. I'm using pen loops on a regular basis, which pen loops are just sort of a
glorified extract.
Glorified extracts, right, with more stuff. But I'm using extract all the time. Every project, absolutely, every project. This stuff here. So this got my. So I did my ZBrush. This is since we're coming close to the end here. I did a little sculpting on this in the morning and. About the same position. So about here, I went through and just remeshed, took this, spent some more time on subdivisions, just doing basic sculpting and modeling. Metal Dragon was asking, he had some questions about the X, Y, and Z values over 100. You're saying if you scale up a model to real world for some further slicing, you constantly get that error about creating X, Y, and Z values over 100. Yeah, so you're using, I assume you're using ScaleMaster plugin to go through and scale up these things. I'm talking about, he's talking about a bounding box that would be around 16 by 14 by 10 inches.
Yeah. Now, what I have, well, yeah, that's because, okay, the ZBrush has a world, right? Obviously, you can see my turtle. The best way to know about this is turn on your floor grid. Here, I'm going to make this brighter. Okay, what's happening is not necessarily a problem for you, honestly.
Yeah.
I just did a piece for me that I just 3D printed out that gave me that same thing. Okay, and it's going to tell you. I'm going to try and explain this as simple as possible. So you can see my turtle is a certain size of the floor grid. So I bet you that project, one of those projects you're talking about, is giving you that warning when you're using a ScaleMaster. I guarantee that project is massive in size compared to the floor grid. So as far as ZBrush World is considered, it's ginormous, okay? And ZBrush obviously was not made specifically for making stuff for physical world, even though we all do it now. So then there is the world of ZBrush where there is a certain scaling factor that's important. So it's just kind of telling you you've gone past that really good, that threshold that is good, right? So this is what I would do. Okay. Default size scale of ZBrush, just so you know, is millimeters in essence. That's why when you go to your ScaleMaster here, Okay, and you click on this and you say set scene. That's why there's only one number for millimeters, because it's pretty much default world millimeters. So if you bring something in that's in millimeter and then it's it's going to probably be physically rather large inside ZBrush. Okay, so let's say this figure. I don't even know what these guys are. What are they? 5 inches figures? No, they're probably more than that, right? 5 or 6 inches? They're probably 6-inch figures.
Which ones are you talking about? The originals?
The actual toy team, whatever.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so what I do here is I click on, say, this, right? Okay, so that just puts this guy now in the inches world. Okay, and then what I do is I create a bounding box, right? As an example, I'll click this new bounding box subtool, and what this does is creates a box that's fitting exactly to my subtools, highest and lowest and widest and deepest point, right? So you see that box is perfect. So if I click on this slider now, you can see the actual size of all these, right? This is 3.284 by 4.46, blah, blah, blah inches. So when you go to resize this, right, and I say, okay, this is actually going to be an 8-inch character, right? And I say 8 inches now, right? And now I say resize all subtools. ZBrush is going to go through and you can see it's resizing everything. And you can see it's physically getting bigger, right? So now this guy is physically larger, okay, in the ZBrush world. So what happens is your guy or your mesh, it is so big that you've reaching the max point of maybe a slider, and we're telling you, hey, we're going to do something to fix this for you in essence. That's what we're doing. So one thing that is useful in this plugin that might help you, and then you won't have that anymore, and you won't lose your measurements, by the way, is that's why there's a ZBrush Scale Unify. So if I click on this, you can see the model gets a lot smaller, but I'm actually not going to lose my measurements in inches. He is 6 inches? Okay, that's what I thought, 6 inches. Okay, so you can see he's now physically smaller in the ZBrush world, but as far as exportability goes, he's still 8 inches by 4.36 by 5.655. Okay, so something you might want to do if you're running into that with that particular mesh that you're talking about, you might want to try using, you need to first set your scene scale though, okay? And then do the ZBrush Scale Unify in this plugin, and then you'll get what I just see. You can see I just changed mine to be really physically big to now he's this size. Okay, so hopefully that helps for you. And then this is also allowing me that I don't really care about size at this point. So even for me, I can also say, I can come here in Deformer and I can size this up one more time. Bless me.
Bless you.
And then say repeat to other, and then see all of them get resized, and I can say resize them up again. So I can even use the Deformer in this sense just to give myself some more physical size. Repeat to other. And see now I've kind of put them back physically again to that size that I had. So hopefully that helps you. Because as a person that does toys, I stay inside of ZBrush to do all my scaling and even, like I said, even articulation points. I'll stay in ZBrush. I forgot to show how to save the curve brush. Thank you. Yes, I did. So this brush now that we've been making, that I've been talking about, right? If now, I know it got asked, thanks for bringing it up, Ray. To save it and all the settings, you just save the brush. You just go to brush and you just hit save as. That's it. And then all these settings with the curve mode and the stretch that I've turned on, the curve resolution, all that saves within the brush. Solomon, there's a question for you.
Oh, you're done talking about the brush?
Yeah, I'm done. Go ahead. Have power now.
No need to switch it. I just saw that. You're asking what technique did I use to pull out the mask? You're talking about this piece here? What I did was just a simple, if that's what you mean, it's just a simple mask extract. So I'm doing, let's split off this little knot here. Oh, I just realized I got some extra little extractions in there. This is, I went into the character here and just drew out a simple, holding control, drawing a mask. And I went into subtool, extract. And the only thing that I messed with was in this extract here, you do have, by default, you'll see the smoothness is going to be on set to 5. So if trying to figure out what your thickness is first and foremost, but then you'll notice when you extract at the tops, you're going to get these wavy sort of shapes. So the mask is basically being generated. If you look at it, it's looking at the mask being assigned to those vertex points. So if it's curvy in any way, it's seeing these as stepping sort of effects here. So when you extract at smoothness of 5, you're going to get a little waving. So if you can increase that smoothness up to 100, click extract, that'll level it out. And even then, sometimes you'll see it's still slightly wavy. So you'll see a lot of these circles here in ZBrush. This is one thing, if you watch any of my other streams, I use polish by features so often. But these circles here are basically controlling how the mesh will shrink inside of the ZBrush space. So when these circles are closed, you'll see the gray dot here means closed. In Subtool Extract, what that means is it's applying a smooth, but it doesn't allow the mesh to shrink in any way. But that basically doesn't allow it to smooth as strongly as it could. So if you open up that circle and then you run this thing at 100 and you extract, that extraction is going to be super clean. And it may like shrink or move into the model, but because it's a piece of cloth, just clicking extract once you find that right thickness and then click accept, you're generating that piece. And then you get this nice thick piece that I just went in and turned into Dynamesh. But what I would do here is, because I used the mask lasso. So started with the mask pen and went in and just painted all this stuff in. But I did do a mask lasso here, which travels through the model. So I got some mask assigned on the inside of the eyes, which gets extracted. So if it's a separate shell, you could actually go in here and just hold Control and Alt with a mask pen and just erase this stuff before you clean out that mask. But what I could actually do here with this extracted piece is it does generate geometry from that. So just holding Control Shift, you could actually go in and just select over a couple of these shells here. As long as you grab just that geometry, you could do a visibility, grow all, reverse that selection, and then go to geometry, modify topology, and delete the hidden. And then I just turn this into a high enough res Dynamesh where it will allow me to kind of hold shift, slightly go in and smooth these edges out so it looks a little bit more cloth-like and less CG-like. And that's about where I'm at currently with this other piece, which let's just get rid of that one. Now I'm trying to figure out how to, I want this to resemble a knot. I'm going to kind of cheat this a little bit. So then I went into the insert brush. The IMM clothing brush actually has a knot. So I'm going to try and cheat this by maybe taking this, subdividing it a little bit, maybe just to smooth it out. And let's go maybe do a little inflate to make that bigger. Sebazone was asking to you, Paul, Scale Master replaces the 3D Print Hub subtool size tools.
No, I wouldn't say it replaces it, but it's because they're working the same. So in essence, what's in Scale Master is pretty much what's also in 3D Print Hub. It's the same type of thing. But you can also just export through Scale Master. You don't have to use the 3D Print Hub, but the 3D Print Hub's got way more controls to it. That's really, this is just simple, just scaling stuff, and that's it. Where the 3D Print Hub is made specifically for 3D printing, i.e., it's got a button that goes straight to certain programs as well. But it also has the ability to have export options. Like all these options you're not going to get in Scale Master, like poly painting and exporting a texture, doing a magic or solid, binary, ASCII. But as far as the scaling method goes, it's the same exact thing. So even when you click on this, you're getting the same stuff, but it's only inches and millimeters. That's it. Whereas Scale Master is also now giving you centimeters, right, as well. And then it's also giving you feet. So we added the 2 more. So you can, if you're not going to use all the crazy features in 3D Print Hub, then yeah, I used just this recently just to do a print. I just used this. I just came here and exported unit. It's under inches, right? And I just exported it, right? And then that's going to give you all your export abilities now, especially now in 2020, you can export any way you can. If that answers your question.
I think it did.
So proud.
That sexy digital artist, you are very welcome. What a great name. Now I'm off to one of my other favorite deformers, the Bend Curve Deformer. I'm going to use this for the mask little tassel ends that are hanging off over the neck.
I don't know what I want to do. What do I want to do? Ah, let's go extrude instead.
Yeah, it is the best.
What's the best?
Somebody was commenting how much they love the Bend Curve tool.
You're simply the best. Better than... Okay.
Sing it, Paul.
I have to be stopped.
Just let him go.
No, it has to be stopped. No. Now you've got me like in the YouTube world, like, oh my god, am I messing things up?
I know. True. I mean, you never know.
I have a Form 2. I don't have a Form 3. Paul Turner, nice. I love it. Don't you know it? I got that song in my head. All right, let's see. I was thinking about
all the way down. Can you give it some more points here?
do an old one, the old group loops.
Ooh, all right.
Knock that polish down. Quick.
Dougie's asking who's going to clean out the Pixologic break room refrigerator when you return to the office. I hope we did that before we left.
If not, you just nominated Solomon. Good job. I'm pretty sure it's done.
Yeah, I remember clearing out all my stuff. Oh, I need to flatten these guys. I should have flattened them before. Actually, that would have been a smarter move. I used a sphere. Should have used a... I think I might do that again. I'm going to save myself a lot of time. This could actually be a nice little trick to do a little fabric piece. A cube would be way better. Flatten this guy out. And then maybe even do some sculpting on it so I have some details. How are we doing for time? Are we getting close to...
It's 2:07, but we had that problem in the beginning, so, you know. I've just been sculpting so much, you know, and then thinking about what I want to play with next.
Dreaming about that Hicks Space Marine armor.
You're in the armor world. I'm still trying to do a turtle.
I'm still on the turtle. I'm getting so close to having some of this stuff finished up. Maybe after I do this one, I'm probably gonna move on to that.
I kind of moved on to just stuff so you all can see stuff that's just not me continually blocking out things, but techniques that I'm going to use down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me right now, the front part of my turtle guy, having that little perfectionness that maybe I want to have, just to give you an idea. Let's do yes. Play with this. Put a little inflation in there. A deformation inflate, so crucial. Let's do the whole thing. I've changed my mind, people. Let's do the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, this is way better. All right. We'll make these ones smaller. Second favorite was asking you, Paul, what is one of your favorite things you've ever 3D printed? His first printer should be here whenever UPS stops checking into the same facility in Illinois. Oh, geez, really? That's rough. I would be struggling to maintain patience if you're waiting for a printer right now, especially in this climate.
My favorite thing that I printed? That's a good question. I did print the X-wing. That was fun. That was fun to do.
Yeah, that was a good one. That one turned out great. That was on the MakerBot, right?
Yeah, but it's still all in pieces. I haven't had the time to put it all together. I made like a piggy bank for my daughter. That was cool, and she's run around with it. But well, now it's in pieces because she understood that to get the money, it has to be broke. So because she got it, she's like, "Well, I want the money." I'm like, "Well, that's the point of the piggy bank. You have to break the piggy bank to get the money."
She did not. That's too funny.
Like literally, I want to even say like maybe 3 or 4 days later after I told her that, she comes back and goes, "Here you go." I'm like, "Why did you break the piggy bank?" She's like, "I needed to get the money. You said I have to break it to get the money. I needed to get the money." I'm like, "Oh my god."
You gotta love that.
Yeah, fine. I'll reprint it then. Like those two were fun to do. I have done some other things for my daughter. That's really fun. Just make something and you print it, and then she's running around the house playing with it. That's tough to top, in my opinion. But I would say there's more projects that I've worked on that I personally, for somebody else, they printed it, but it wasn't me that printed it, but it was cool to have it done. Like I think some of the Star Wars stuff I got to work on was a lot of fun. I think I'm over analyzing this again.
How you doing over there? I haven't checked on you in a little bit.
I'm working.
Oh yeah, look at that.
I can say I'm working. That's about what's happening over here.
Especially for that classic toy look, you're nailing that. Those shapes are looking like the old school designs.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay a little bit more harsh and again using the deformers. I think I did overkill with the ridge though. That's big time overkill. That is way overkill. I don't like it. It's too much overkill.
Making those details pop for the print.
Yep. It's the goal. But with that said, though, actually, one of the more excited prints I'm really looking forward to is printing out my Gremlin. I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to get that guy done, and I'm excited to print that out and see what that's going to look like. I'm going to get it CNC machined as well. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. 100%. Okay. That's good. But the good question is, what printer did you buy? For the person I was asking the question, what did you end up buying? If you don't mind me asking.
It looks like you said you got an Ender 3.
Oh yeah, that's a great printer.
Yep, very great. It's very high in demand right now.
Yeah, great printer. I do like it. Oh, live booleans, how you've saved my life. Let me count the ways that you have saved me. And a 1! And a 2.
You know what? I think I'm going to do an old school Dynamesh Boolean.
Stop it. Yep. Shut the front door.
In this case, so I have this little, the straps from the bandana, and I want to have some holes in it, right? And yeah, you could live Boolean that, absolutely. But I just want to punch a hole in really quick, and it'd be so much easier to just take a primitive sphere, just punch that thing through with Alt key, Control drag, and boom. Not something I do as much with live booleans, but this is one of those times where this is really great. Faux 4 Engine is asking, is this for an upcoming movie? Don't we wish? This is just Paul and I just getting silly. We're doing this for our own benefit, really just trying to challenge ourselves, really, and come up with some new stuff to you know, to work around and have some new constraints. Really, it's this whole mashup idea. I started doing this in my regular live streams just because I was having a hard time coming up with stuff to do. So for now, we're just looking at Ninja Turtles, but the next stream, we should be able to actually get to the Space Marine part.
This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, thanks.
Why I like live booleans. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, he was just saying cool.
Cool. Cool. This is why I like live boolean. It's because you can edit another mesh that the boolean's actually happening to. Where Solomon's approach was, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just very destructive. So in essence, he makes the cut, and then that's it. You know, he can't. It's harder now to do like the things that I'm doing, where I can even just continue to sculpt on my body and to make that joint all work better for me. So me personally, I don't use Dynamesh anymore especially if you're making something like my target goal is like a toyish. I don't use Dynamesh anymore for that.
Right.
It's all live boolean for me.
And I should preface by saying, like, if you look at what I'm doing, I'm in Dynamesh. I'm trying to make this strap sort of dirty and have holes in it. So I'm Dynamesh sculpting on the fly, and to just put a hole through this as if it's like a tear in the cloth. In this case, the Dynamesh boolean, the only reason why I like it is because it's quicker. Because I get that hole faster without having to go to subtool, turn subtraction on, turn live booleans on, make a new piece, and then append it back in.
Oh man, that's why I'm a folder guy.
Folder guys.
Oh man, the folder boolean feature, boom, lifesaver. I
Definitely
live
nice.
on that one too. A little more shoulder. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Oh, it's a little bit better. There we go.
Punching holes and taking names. That's right.
You are my turtle.
Dougie's saying you gave your CNC mill to your godson last Christmas. He had the desire and the time and space for it. Wow, what a gift! That is huge. Very cool.
Is it one of the small ones that I'm assuming that you? What size one was that?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know too. All right, man. The turtle shell go all the way down the abs. Like, where does it stop? It goes underneath. I missed something here.
Turtle power. You gotta get another one in there.
25-inch square bed with a 7-inch cut depth. CNC shark.
Wow. Oh, the shark. All right.
Very nice.
All right. Do you want to be? You say you gave it to your nephew?
It's godson.
Godson. Can I be your godson?
Same. Handing out gifts like that.
Since you're giving away things.
Yeah, thanks, Rui. I think you are correct. I'm going to try and fix that.
God, I got to get... Sometimes going from Mac to Windows really messes me up.
I know. Same.
Yeah, different.
That command key.
It's the Windows. Yeah, it's the Windows key, actually.
Or the Windows key. Yeah, it's just, it spaces everything out.
Yeah, you're always on a Windows machine, though, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm always on a Mac machine for the most part.
out of support and development testing stuff, it's the only time I go to the Mac. But if I'm working, I'm right here in the Windows.
Whoops. 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 All right, we got spacing for his arms. Let's put that shoulder joint back on so we can visually see how we're looking here. Smaller joint, like that. That needs to stick out a lot more. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. Uberbar was talking about the shell wrapped around the sides. Yeah, it's actually going around that torso, so it's like a swing set for babies. It's got that whole, or I guess what would be another good example? It's the only thing I can think of right now. Yeah, I got to get some more extractions in there.
Those extractions. All right, we're at 220. What do you think? Another 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yep.
We'll call
I'm looking good here. I got at least the turtle done today, but if we were to go through and continue this for the next Clubhouse, I would want to go in next time and do just Space Marine stuff.
Space Marine.
Maybe I can start by giving him just a Marine helmet.
I'm having a brain fart. Okay, I know what I want to do now. I'm like, brain, think, brain, think. What am I doing, brain? Oh, see? I don't know if you can hear it, but the daughter's knocking away.
Oh, that's her? I thought that was you. I thought you were just tapping.
No. That's not me. That's her. I'm in the screen. I'm gonna let her into color.
Lola.
She's just gonna keep pounding at the door. So.
What do I want to do for this? Oh, this is a good one for the old radial symmetry.
Radial symmetry.
Actually, let's put this into the scene first.
Why are they so angry?
What do you mean?
Like at least the reference I'm looking at, they're all like, because they all got the green teeth and then the eyes, right?
Yeah, they do. You're right. I mean, Shredder, man. Shredder's just ruining everyone's day.
Shredder. Start laying in some foundational things here for these eyes. I couldn't stop looking at like the overall piece without the eyes. It's starting to get to me.
Yeah, you got to get those in. I know that's when things start to feel better. Once you have those eyes in, you can start to see things that are wrong. I love it.
This brings them to life, you know.
How does a Ninja Turtle wear a marine helmet?
On its head.
It's just a weird shape. A turtle head. I'm gonna need to make it a little bit more oblong, maybe stretched out.
Go too crazy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Dougie's asking about the Hossein Diba ZBrush Masters. Do we have the release date for that? Let me check ZBrush Central.
No, we haven't announced it completely yet.
Okay. Undetermined.
It'll come. I spoiled and told him that we're going to be having him as a guest. But as of right now, no, we have no announcement for him. But we've got months worth of ZBrush Masters lined up, people. There's a lot of artists that are willing to jump on and share, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, has everyone here checked out all the ZBrush Masters streams yet? If you haven't, I will drop a link.
I'm going to use the transpose line for what it's also made for.
Yeah, thank you guys for the kind words on the master streams. We are so glad that you guys love them. We love them too.
His eyes.
Posted season 1. If you haven't seen it, if anybody's tuning in, all these guys are pointing out too. There's 2 seasons now. We're moving in dog years basically because it's only been really since the lockdown since we started. Here's season 2 in the chat.
His eyes are not there. I thought my eyes were too far apart, but now looking at the measurements, the nose is too big. Let's see more. Oh. Give him some cheeks. Bigger cheeks. Tear up, Alec. I can't help myself. All right, let's put a mouth in. Let's see. You're talking about Assassin's Creed. Yeah, Magdalena worked on Assassin's Creed. She worked on. I want to say she worked on even the original. She worked on the original character. Yeah, she's coming up on Tuesday. This coming Tuesday is the next ZBrush Masters with Magdalena the Della. It is amazing. She's going to be another. All these have just been awesome to watch. So it's going to be another good one. For sure. Did you do Angry Mouth?
I did. I've got neutral mouth right now.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm going Angry Mouth.
Yeah.
Grinding teeth, Angry Mouth.
I just remembered when we were working on ZModeler, way back when, one of the first things I made was one of the rifles from Alien.
Yeah.
Or
I remember that.
Aliens, rather. I
Yeah.
wonder if I still have that.
I remember it. Boop, 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 beep, beep. And then coming all the way across. I think I'm just going to do one side angry mouth. I don't know.
Uncle Phil was not the voice of Shredder, was he really? Ubavar saying Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince was the voice of Shredder in the live action film. If that's true, that is crazy. Okay, I was just starting to get to the Space Marine armor. Yes, definitely. Now here's the question. How does a turtle put on Space Marine armor with that shell? This is a whole other thing that I gotta figure out now. Yeah, maybe it just snaps on the front side. I'm gonna go with first and foremost, we'll do a interesting. Rui saying Saul, the sound is breaking. Can you say Oruk Orokosaki? Orokosaki. Can you hear me now? Dexter, bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. Thanks, Mac. Appreciate the compliments. Just starting to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with this mutant or this armor stuff, but I'm glad to know he's at least looking mutant Ninja Turtle-y. It's gotta go in a lot more. Paul, BT Sculptor's saying that you're muted. For some reason, they can't hear you, at least on Twitch. But anybody on YouTube, can you guys hear Paul? That's what I'm wondering. It was Dougie and BT Sculptor were both saying. Time to call it. Okay. Oh, this is fun. We got some stuff done today. I like it. Another one I'll never finish. unless we do this again. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Those of you guys that are tuning in, just let me know. Okay, Uber Bar saying they can hear me. Okay, well, yeah. So, Comics Legend, thanks again for watching as always. Pre-drag, thank you guys. We're gonna call it here. We appreciate you guys tuning in, being a part of this with us on a Saturday, and we'll be back again soon. So the next one we'll be picking up from where we left off, and we'll get into the Space Marine stuff with you guys. Yeah, be safe, everyone. Thanks again, and happy ZBrushing.